Good evening. Well, I wanted to talk about something today. Um, Normally I'd like to try to film outside, out in nature. The topic I'm going to talk about today is kind of, I think, dictates a more personal filming. Not that I'm a professional videographer or anything even close, but wanted a little different mood for this one. Besides the fact that this weekend here in Montana, it's supposed to be real windy all weekend and cold, single digits, and with the wind, it'd be hard to film. But today I've been the desire to drink's back, and more than anything, I think I need to hear myself say this out loud just to kind of reaffirm it for myself, and hopefully it helps somebody out there relate to it in terms of the progression. So I'll be talking about my very first time drinking, which was kind of the mood and the tone of my first time drinking was how it was for, the first year or two of my teenage years. Not even 2 years, probably first year of drinking. It was always like you're going to see. And then I'll talk about one of my later, in the worst part of my drinking, which was about a year and a half ago, one of my later typical drinking experiences, which I had progressed to a binge drinker in the worst part of my alcoholism. So I'll just get started. So the first time I ever drank, I had arrived. I had found what I was looking for. I took some tequila out of my parents' liquor cabinet. They weren't home. I had a small group of close friends, none of whom really drank, and I was curious about alcohol, so I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. I'd had sips here and there. I'd taken a beer here and there when I was younger, 10 and 12, whatever. But I'd never actually gotten intoxicated. So I wanted to see what it was like. I was 15, and I don't know, I had 6 or 7 shots and was chasing them with the probably worst choice for chaser, which is like Pepsi. Chasing tequila with that because I had no idea what I was doing. And pretty soon I was feeling great. It was euphoria. I had never experienced anything like that. First substance I had done, I had never smoked weed or anything like that. So then I was never really a social person, still am not. I was never really that social in high school. Like I said, I had a small group of close friends. But there was a high school football game going on a couple blocks away where I lived pretty close to the high school, my high school. And so normally I wouldn't have gone. It would have been, you know, the wrong crowd, just kids I go to school with, but I'm not really friends with. So I immediately had all the confidence in the world. I walked right over there, and the first people I saw, I was friendly with normally, but they were by no means good friends of mine. I seen them at school, and we, say hi or talk in class or whatever. A couple kids I saw were on the baseball team that I played with in high school. But anyway, nobody believed I was drunk. They thought they knew me. They're like, "Well, you don't drink." They thought I was faking it to be cool, and I did not care. I could not have cared less that they thought I was faking it. I was feeling just great. It was, like I said, I had arrived. I had found what I'd been looking for my whole youth, trying to fit in, and I made an absolute fool of myself. In hindsight, I was just talking nonsense. It was my first time being drunk, and I loved it, and everyone around me thought I was faking it, and because I was acting that way and they thought I was faking it, they were just, I mean, yeah, they thought I was a loser, pretty much. But I didn't care. I didn't care at all. Even the next day, I played fall ball in high school, so we had Saturday games, and, the football game was on a Friday, so I had a game the next day. And they still thought the two kids that I saw at the previous night at the football game, they thought I was faking it until they saw how hungover I was and was puking in the dugout. But I didn't care about the hangover. I had found exactly what I was looking for, and I couldn't wait to do it again. And I did. And my next year or so of drinking was always like that. It was just fun, and I started drinking with friends once they found out I drank. And it was fun. So we'll fast forward to so that was 15. We'll fast forward to when I was 36 or 37, 36. And this was a very typical binge for me, or bender. And we'll get right into that, and hopefully you'll be able to see the difference. And I need to hear myself say the difference. So it went from really fun to this. I don't remember what triggered it, what caused me to want to get drunk, but I'd had about a week sober, and just started actively trying to get sober. Decided enough was enough, but I'd had about a week sober, and I didn't know how to deal with things that come up in life that make you angry or stressed, or for me, it's stress and anger were a lot of my early triggers for drinking. So I was all pissed off about something, and with having to do with my girlfriend, I think at the time we must have gotten in a fight or something. So I went and just planned on a weekend. This was on like a Friday night. I planned on a weekend of just getting tanked, and I bought 2/5 of vodka and 1/5 of whiskey. I was kind of a garbage drunk. I didn't really care, but I didn't like stick to one type of liquor or one type of beer. I drink just about anything, and I wouldn't always just drink vodka or whiskey or tequila or whatever it was. Tended to gravitate towards vodka and whiskey, but regardless, back on track. I bought 2/5 of vodka and 1/5 of whiskey for a weekend. That right there tells you. I weighed like 155, 160 pounds, so that should have been more than enough for 5 or 6 days. But quickly blacked out that night. Don't remember much for the next 2 or 3 days. I do remember some bits and pieces of yelling at my girlfriend and her yelling at me and me just being pissed off, out of control. Don't remember this, but apparently I was punching holes in the wall because I was fighting with her. And just out of control. So the bits and pieces I do remember were not fun at all. It was just, I was angry. I was, making a fool of myself and scaring my girlfriend, scaring her kids, who were 12 and 10 at the time. Kids who shouldn't have to see that kind of stuff. Bad enough that my girlfriend sent them to her friend's house, who also had kids, to just get them out of that so they didn't have to see the depths of my alcoholism. And she had every right to do that. She told me that she called the cops because of me yelling at her, punching holes in the wall. Later on, breaking a chair. I just broke a dining room chair for no reason, smashed it into splinters on the hardwood floor for no reason. She called the cops, just wanted to document that I was drunk and angry, and they said, well, he hasn't hit you. No, he hasn't hit me. They said, well, we can document this. I'm being told all this. I remember none of this. We can document this, just as an incident, but we can't really do anything. And so then I kind of came to, I remember waking up and I did not know if it was 5 a.m. This was days later. I don't know if it was 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. And I believe that's when you're in a bad spot, when you're waking up after a couple of days of drinking and you don't know if it's night or morning. That's not good. And I didn't. Then I remember I was out of liquor, and I made a good decision not to drive. I remember I didn't drive this whole week long bender. Um, so we had DoorDash in this town in Idaho I lived in, and one second. Okay. We had DoorDash in this town in Idaho I lived in, and so probably the only smart decision I made was not to drive. So I DoorDashed at 7 in the morning. I think it was 18 Voodoo Rangers. So I put in the order at 7 in the morning, as early as you can put in a DoorDash order. They got there 7:30, delivered these 18 Voodoo Rangers at 7:30 in the morning to somebody who's still obviously intoxicated. And I proceeded to spend that day just getting hammered. Voodoo Rangers are 9.5%. And I remember doing the same thing the next day, and it was either the next day or the day after that. I would do 18 Voodoo Rangers a day. And I remember puking because my body was so saturated with alcohol by this time. I remember puking and being so upset that I just puked up all this alcohol that I'd just taken in that I immediately started chugging more Voodoo Rangers to replace the alcohol that I had just puked up that I was worried about my body losing. Well, my body was rejecting the alcohol is what was happening. It was rejecting it. It was saying, this is 4 or 5 days now. You haven't drawn a single sober breath. It's time to sober up. Well, I was forcing the alcohol back into it. It just complete oblivion. I did not leave, except for the early fights with my girlfriend, apparently. I did not leave my bedroom. She was sleeping in the kid's bed in the other room, and had drawn all the curtains in the bedroom, turned the TV on, and had my dog in there with me. And dogs are loyal, but she probably didn't want to be in there all day long with me. And I let her out to go to the bathroom and bring her back in and just go back in the dark bedroom and just go to town, getting hammered, pass out, wake up, do it all over again. This went on the total bender 6 or 7 days. I remember towards the end, I was noticing, or paranoid that I was noticing, my beer I was keeping in the fridge right outside the bedroom. I kept thinking bottles kept going missing. Well, come to find out, my girlfriend had been dumping some of the bottles, hoping I wouldn't notice, just trying to get me to drink less. As she should. She should have dumped them all. And she was at every right to do that. So then, I get paranoid about my alcohol going missing, that I'm not going to have enough because, 12 Voodoo Rangers isn't enough. I need all 18 every day of this 9.5% alcohol. And so I brought every day I'd order them, I'd just bring them in the bedroom with me because I didn't want her. So I'm drinking then warm Voodoo Ranger, which Voodoo Ranger is not a good beer to begin with, and warm it is awful. I mean, just syrupy, warm awfulness. But I didn't care. I just wanted the effect, and I didn't want my bottles to go missing. So I drank warm, terrible alcohol for days on end. And it should be clear to me, reflecting on this pattern, that was a normal binge for me in the worst part of my alcoholism. I might get 3-4 days sober, not quite, a couple days, and then go on a week-long bender. And it was never fun. It wasn't always that bad. It wasn't always screaming and yelling. And then when I broke up with my girlfriend, I didn't have anyone to scream or yell at, but it was always curtains drawn, in the dark, doing nothing but drinking and watching TV. Absolutely nothing but drinking and watching TV. And, it translated when I moved to Montana, I started living in town. I could walk to the liquor store, and so then I would run out and I would either walk over to the bar and which is 2 blocks from here, and walk over to the bar and get some shots, or go to the liquor store or whatever. But it was always complete isolation and just the most dark depression you can imagine. And the only way I could get that depression to go away was by drinking until I passed out. Does that sound fun to you? It wasn't fun for me, and that was where my drinking went to. I was always convinced every relapse that it was going to be different. That, oh, this time it's not going to be this pit of despair. It's going to be different this time. Well, dozens, 17, 18, I lost count. Somewhere between 15 and 20 relapses and going on these benders. It's never been different. Not one single time has it been different. So there's this phenomenon that's kind of known in the recovery community of it's easy for us to forget the pain of the last relapse or the pain of the last time we drank. And our mind, or my mind anyway, plays tricks on me. And it can only, I'm good when I sober up for a couple weeks usually. And within a month, I'm convincing myself it wasn't that bad, and I'm convincing myself how it will be different this time when it has never been different. Once I progressed to the point of severe alcoholism, I was an alcoholic by the time I was 18, easily. Within 2-3 years of me discovering alcohol, I was an alcoholic. But my early and mid 30s is when my drinking really, really was at its worst. And it was no longer fun. And once it had progressed to that point, there was no turning back. I was never going to be able to have the fun times that I used to have again. I was always chasing those early times. And even in my 20s, I had some fun times, don't get me wrong. But I was constantly chasing the fun times on alcohol, the euphoria, when all I got on these benders was blackouts, passing out, not knowing what time it is, puking, getting in arguments, having cops and paramedics called on me. That one bender in particular, my girlfriend at the end called the paramedics, and I refused to see them. And they said, "Well, if he won't see us and it's not a medical emergency, we can't do anything." She was hoping they would take me to the hospital and detox me, but there was nothing life-threatening besides the damage I was doing to myself, my liver. But there wasn't an immediate danger of me losing my life. And it was shortly after the paramedics went away. She told me I had made some comment about not even wanting to live anymore, and she asked me, "Do I need to take your guns away?" And she said, I looked right at her and I said, "No, I'm not going to go out like that. I live by the sword, die by the sword." And took a big old swig of booze, and meaning I was trying to just drink myself to death. And I vaguely remember that. I remember saying something about live by the sword, die by the sword, and just trying to drink myself to death. I figured my body was so saturated I might have a shot of doing it. I had somehow then acquired more liquor by the last day. I don't even know how. You can't DoorDash it. Maybe I drove. Who knows? But that last day I had another bottle of liquor and was trying to use that to essentially end my life. And does that sound fun? Not fun to me. So I kind of needed to hear myself say this, because today my mind was trying to play tricks on me. It was trying to tell me that I should go to the liquor store and get a fifth of vodka. And it was saying, well, you don't even have to drink it, you just have it. Well, I've done that before. I've bought in the bottle just to have, and within an hour or two I'm opening it. There's no reason just to have it unless you actually plan on relapsing. And if I would have gone and bought that bottle, I would be drinking right now instead of making this video trying to help other people relate and trying to hear myself out loud, tell myself why I'm not going to drink today. And I'm not going to drink tonight. Tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow I'm going to do what I have to do to stay sober. But that's where my alcoholism has led me. Being in a room for a week straight, doing nothing but drinking, waking up and not knowing if it's morning or evening, puking and drinking more to replace more alcohol, scaring my girlfriend to the point that she sends her kids, who we all live together as a family, to their friend's house because she can't have them seeing the chaos that I'm creating. And with that, I'll wish you guys all a good night and have a sober and safe weekend. Thank you.